Hey up, Tony. Tony, they'll never guess what happened last night. So after I finished my deliveries, right, went back to our house. They'll never guess who was in bed with our lass. Fred. Yeah, the Fred. Couldn't believe it. Could not believe me eyes. To be fair, I couldn't get mad at him. Because I was round at Fred's house with his missus. I know. It's crazy, isn't it? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Hello, everybody, and welcome to day number 4. If my maths serves me correctly, we're a third of the way through the 12 days of Christmas here on the Pritchard Cycling News channel. And I must admit, it's not been as bad as I thought. So yesterday, Chris gave away a coffee subscription thanks to our partners, Grand Tour Coffee. Tom Darcy was the winner of that, and he'll be receiving his coffee in the post soon. But I know what you want to know. Santa, what's up for grabs today? It's the only reason I'm watching these rubbish videos. Well, thanks to the Discount Sports Network and ProViz, we're giving a lucky viewer the chance to receive the gift of a classic long sleeve Peloton cycling jersey in blue. My second favourite colour. My first? Well, it's brown. So if you want to be in with a chance of receiving this gift from me today, all they ask to do is leave your comments down below. Make them as positive, make them as nice as you can. But make sure you're using the hashtag Santa. If you do that, I can filter out all the chaff from all the good comments that I need to receive. I can find out somebody who actually wants to win the prize. Hashtag Santa in the comments down below. Follow ProViz on the Instagram. Follow Discount Sports Network on the Instagram. And if you want to take it to another level, it's optional. Go and sign up to the Discount Sports Network. Use the link down below. You get 10% off your annual subscription. It opens you up to receive discount for over 90 brands in the sporting world. Come on. It's a no-brainer. Don't make any sense that you're still here wondering, still here pondering. Go and do it. Tell them Santa sent you. All right? Anyway, let's get on with today's video. As Chris is, I don't know, he's doing something with the Zwift again. I don't know what that means, but enjoy the video nonetheless. And I'll be back tomorrow with some more giveaways. What am I going to do about Fred? No, I don't know, mate. Our lass has invited him round to eat. I think so, I'm just going to get plastered. Whatever happens, happens, innit? It won't be the first time I've done it, though. Sit there. Hello and welcome, and today we're taking a look back at the inaugural Cycling Esports World Championships that took place on Wednesday. Straight off the bat, if you've not done already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. 35,000 of you I want by the end of the year. It ain't gonna happen now. I'll be surprised if I even hit 34,000. I don't know if you're doing it on purpose or you just don't like the content. I don't know. But either way, just hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hopefully I'll hit 35,000 at some point in 2021, maybe even 2022. But who cares about me? It's not about me. It's about the Esports World Championships, and it's about your opinion of it. First ever Cycling Esports World Championships. Straight off the bat, leave your comments down below. What did we think to it? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Did you enjoy the coverage? Did you enjoy the race? Did you enjoy the platform? Did you enjoy the course? Did you enjoy the riders? Did you enjoy the race as a whole? Let me know down below. For those of you who've been living under a rock and didn't see the result, let's take a quick look back now and find out who the winners were of both the men's and the women's races in the inaugural Esports World Championships. Alright, so the women's race potentially might have got off to a flying start. I have no idea, because by the time the coverage started, we were already, 17 kilometres into the race. The front group was already down to around 30 riders. They had a 48-second gap over Kristin Vild's group. Then there was a 2-minute and 12 gap back to another group containing Riffle. And it was pretty much status quo all the way down to around 19 kilometres when Danny Christmas decided to light it up a little bit, give us a bit of entertainment and try and get off the front on the boulevard. However, come on, if you know Zwift, you know that ain't going to work. I don't know if she was just stretching her legs, if she was just softening people up a little bit, but whatever, she got pulled back in. You know the speed of the blob, you know the speed of a massive group compared to a single rider out front. It was never going to last. And then coming into 1.5 kilometers to go, for some reason, the Americans had been bossing this. They'd had like 5 riders up there all race. Tracy decided to drop a featherweight on the flattest part before they'd even reached the start of the final climb. It was enough for her to get away. However, again, I think even if no one chased that down, and no one really chased it down that hard, it was always going to come back, that little attack, that little effort. Ashley Moolman-Pasio smashing that featherweight on the steepest part of this gradient. Don't forget, it's 900 meters in length, average gradient 5.5%. She hit that featherweight, and as you can see, a lot of the other riders tried to respond but just couldn't. The only rider that really could get anywhere near her was Sarah Gigante. She managed to close that gap up, and they would fight it out for the victory. But Ashley Moolman-Pasio took the Women's World Championships at the first ever Esports Cycling World Championships. Over in the men's, again, could have got off to a fast start, could have got off to a frantic start. It probably did, because that's how all Zwift races start. But again, once the cameras cut to the men's race, they are down to 28 kilometers to go. Guys are hitting aeros for no apparent reason. And the group, again, the front group is down to, I think it's slightly bigger than what the women's was. Maybe 50 riders in this one. But again, a lot of riders had already been left behind. Now, apart from a few efforts from Freddie Ovett trying to get away on the climbs, again, this was one of those races where it wasn't necessarily about riders getting up the road and forming groups in front of the peloton. It was the peloton simply riding people off their wheels and just not being able to maintain that pace and going backwards rather than riders going off the front. And again, it wasn't until the last climb up that forward KOM that the action really started. Oh, I tell a lie, coming over the final sprint bridge, the Canadians decided to go on, you know, to be fair, like 500 IQ for this one, big brain power for all 3 riders going up the road and trying to get away, potentially working for Sanders, you'd have thought. They were smashing their power-ups all the way up through the S's, trying to get away and hopefully forming that group. Again, like we've said in the past, one rider away on their own, it's so hard to maintain that gap and build a gap over that speeding blob. But 3 riders up the road, potentially they could have done something. However, lack of communication, lack of energy, I don't know what it was, but they never ended up really forming a group together, the 3 Canadians, and it was for naught really in the end. But great effort all the same, and you know, well worth a squirt, as they say. So now moving on to the final climb. Again, this was a lot closer than the women's race was up at this point here. Everyone really still in contention. And then we had Rapier from Germany heading to the front, which was in effect going to be the lead out for the eventual winner, Jason Osborne. Smashing massive watts, putting a gap in between them with 500 meters to go there. Flattens off just round this corner, remember. And again, you'd still think that this potentially might be a little bit too early. However, it averages probably 2 to 3% all the way to the finish now. Osborne attacks out of that corner and he goes 12 watts a kilo. He's smashing it, 300 meters to go now. He then hits his aero power up now. There you go, boom. And that's it. That's all she wrote. No one's coming back from that. Jason Osborne, the rower, spent a little bit of time on Zwift, spends very little time out on the roads, likes to be on the water, ends up taking the first ever Esports World Championship. Unbelievable. So if you take a look at the results of the top 10 for the women's, Ashley Moolman-Pasio takes the victory, Sarah Gigante, Cecilia Hansen, Lauren Stevens. Look at the Americans, in the women's race. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them in the top 9. You had Jackie Godby in 5th, Annika Langvad in 6th, Laura Matson-Coe in 7th, Emma Belforth in 8th, Kristin Kulczynski in 9th, and 10th was Brie Vine. Over in the men's, obviously we had Jason Osborne. Anders Foldiger was in 2nd, Nicholas Pedersen in 3rd, Ollie Jones 4th, Ben Hill 5th, Lionel Vieuxan in 6th. Can someone tell me down below how to pronounce Lionel's name? I always pronounce it 10 different ways. And I love the man, I respect the man, and I'd like to know actually how you actually pronounce his name. Matteo Dalchin in 7th, Freddie was down in 8th, great effort from him. Ryan Larson in 9th, and Jonas Hidvibig, maybe a silent H, Vidberg. Anyway, he finished in 10th. So there we have it. So they're the races, and I'm going to call it as it is. And I'm not dissing the riders when I say this, because the riders are there to race. They're not here to entertain us. It was a boring race. For an hour's worth of racing, it was a boring race. And I think the reason behind that is there's no dynamic that we see in a road race, for instance. That the UCI are trying to make this as ungamified as possible and try and recreate essentially what happens on the road on this platform, but we'll talk about this later. I don't think that's the way to do it. But because the race is only short, because the race is so intense, it's hard to get those breakaways to happen. It's whenever you see a race and the peloton has shrunk, it's not because riders have gone off the front and formed groups and then all come back together. It's because everyone's just getting shelled out the back because the pace is so high. Now, if we could somehow get that point where riders are able to form groups off the front, then potentially you might, I don't know if that comes down to the draft algorithm within Zwift that allows riders to get up the road a tiny bit easier, because you know, one rider, two riders up the road on their own, they're always going to get caught if the race is more than a couple of kilometers, because it's so hard to stay away from that fast moving blob. And I think unless they adjust that algorithm within that blob and allow riders to be able to get up the road, then it's always going to be a boring race. It's always going to be just one big blob sticking together, riders getting shelled out the back, and eventually the fastest, whoever's still got enough energy at the end, will be able to sprint for victory, rather than that dynamic of 5 riders getting up the road, having a little bit of a gap, then that peloton having to work to catch them, or these riders having to work a little bit harder to stay away, and giving you that other dynamic of a race that we never see. But because the race is only an hour long, I don't think we're ever going to get to see that. So let me know down in the comments, what did you think to the actual races? Are you in my boat where you thought it was kind of boring, didn't really get going until the end, or were you fully hooked and engaged in that race? Let me know down below. Now let's take a look at the actual format of the race. The good thing about the format of this race for me was it was the same distance for both the men's and the women's, parity across the board. 50 kilometers race around one of the most famous courses in Watopia. It was the reverse figure of 8. I think that was the best option that Zwift could have gone with. A lot of people in the comments when we spoke about this last week about potentially using somewhere like Richmond or the Yorkshire course or London, a lot of people wanted to keep it away from the real courses and have it as a esports specific course. And I think we did that they definitely did that in Watopia. Was that the right choice? A lot of riders were complaining that the course just wasn't hard enough for them, that they wanted it to be harder. A couple of the women were commenting saying that they would have preferred that race to have been harder. But with that course, could you have ever really got it as tough as you wanted it? I don't think so. I don't think the climbs were long enough. I think there was too much flat riding. And if you look at a few of the Strava files from some of the riders, you'll notice that there was a lot of downtime in the middle. And potentially there are the moments where riders can get away. But if you know Zwift, you know that it's not as simple as just having an attack off the front when other people are resting. Next up, and let's take a look at the coverage. There was a lot of coverage on TV for this race. You could watch it if you were in Europe on Eurosport, and I believe, depending where you were in the world, you could have streamed it on Zwift's YouTube channel, but not in the UK. For a company that was started in the UK, that is based in the UK, that has a huge amount of following in the UK, bit daft that they wouldn't allow it to stream. Obviously that comes down to money and Eurosport having to pay for the rights and whatnot. But still, you would have thought that it would have been streamed worldwide to get it out to as many people as they can so they can see exactly what's happening. Because this is a brand new sport. It needs exposing. It's not a brand new sport. It's a new discipline within a very old sport. But it needs exposing to everybody, to allow everybody to know that this is a legitimate form of racing. The fact that the UCI are getting behind it and giving away rainbow jerseys to the winners shows you that this thing is here to stay and it is part of the cycling landscape from now on. But the fact that we were restricted in how we could watch it, I think this is what gives cycling esports the edge over a normal race, a world tour race. The fact that fans can get involved in the conversation in those live streams and feel part of the race, to be able to cheer and let everybody know who they're supporting, let everybody know what their opinion is of said racer or race. I think that was a huge opportunity missed for the likes of Zwift. I'm sure they're not crying about it, but again, it's just one of those little things that could have been changed, that could have been done differently to allow more fans to be involved and feel part of a massive race. All right, next up, let's talk about the future of cycling esports. Now, are we going to see the UCI World Championships continue next year, and are we going to see it continue on Zwift? Is Zwift going to be the platform that the UCI commit to for these World Championships? Or do you think they'll be spreading it around with the other platforms? Well, with all due respect to other platforms, none of them's ready to host a World Championship. So I think we've got to definitely look at Zwift for the next year and potentially the next few years worth of World Championships, right? But what do we think to that format? What do we think to that one-off race like we see in a World Championship road race? Just a one-off event. For me personally, this is esports. We can literally do whatever we want. We can write the, well, we can't, I can't, but the people who are in charge can write the rules. And if we look at other esports and we take inspiration from them. Now, if we look at, I don't know, CSGO, for instance, Call of Duty, Dota, the other things that people make millions of pounds from, they're not just simply one-off events. It's not you turn up and if you die, you die. There's various different rounds. And I think that's what made the British National Championships so exciting. It wasn't just simply a one-off event. It was a round of 4 races where the riders scored as many points as possible, accumulating in eventually a British national champion. And I think this is the way that the World Championship should go. I don't think it should be a one-off event. I don't think nationalities should have any more than potentially 1 rider, maybe 2 riders for any nationality. And then the other thing I think we need to do is make sure, and again, we're living in a very, very difficult time to actually make this happen, but the riders need to all be in a studio together, racing together. Because those pain cams that we see, they're never set up the way we want them. We never get to really see the struggle that these riders are going through. Put them all in a studio with professional cameramen, you can get those shots. You can really see how hard those riders are working. Plus, they can see on either side or in front of them, wherever they are, they can see the other riders. They can see what's going on. It gives it another dynamic. If I can see that that rider over there is struggling, you better believe I'm going to find an extra 10% to push harder, to make them work even harder. But you don't know what's happening in someone else's house when they're 7 hours behind you on the other side of the world. And that's the other thing. Look at these World Championships. They took place for some reason on a Wednesday. I don't know. And they took place in the middle of the day in Europe, which meant that it was Thursday going in, Wednesday night going into Thursday morning in the East. And in the West, it was Tuesday night going into Wednesday morning. So you had riders across the world racing at different times. Now, I'm no scientist, but I know that no rider is feeling at their most potent and feeling their best at 3 a.m. in the morning. No. So you had riders who were in their prime at 2, 3 p.m. in the afternoon here in Europe, racing and feeling great, compared to the Americans, the Australians, who were just millions of miles, well, thousands of miles away, on different time zones, probably struggling to stay awake, which creates a very unfair platform. You know, don't forget all these riders are on the same trainers, yet they're at different time zones. It makes a massive difference. The riders need to be in the same place at the same time racing against each other. And I know what you're saying, that there was hundreds of riders. How could you all get them into that same space? Right now, it's going to be very difficult. But in the future, you get 50 riders of every nationality, bring them together to race within the same warehouse, studio, whatever it might be. And it just creates a brand new dynamic. Then you take that round system that we saw in the British Championships, and we have 3, 4, 5 different races throughout the day where riders can really play to their advantages. A hill climb, a crit circuit, a long race, an elimination race, a scratch race, a points race, however it might be. But this one-off race, I don't think producer's the most entertaining racing. That's me personally. But let me know on everything down below. What do you think to these World Championships? Like I say, we're just scratching the surface with this. Even though Zwift is 5 years old now, racing on there, official racing on there, it's still in its infancy. There's still a long way to go. But what do we think to the first ever Esports Cycling World Championships? Was it a success or was it a failure? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. No chance of seeing 35,000 subs by the end of the year unless you pull your finger out. If you've not enjoyed the video for whatever reason, hit that dislike button, make sure you leave your comments, and I will see you tomorrow.